Hey there guys, Aldershot here. Welcome to another edition of our Warframe Beginner's Guide, and this is going to be part 2 of our farming guide. In part 1, we kind of talked about the basics of Warframe farming, so if you haven't checked that out already, go ahead and click the link in the description, or you can click on the annotation that's on your screen right now. In part 2, we're going to talk about more advanced farming, as in how to attain more advanced gear and materials and all that sort of thing. What we're going to talk about is how to farm for formas, potatoes, dual stat mods, corrupted mods. We'll also talk about how to farm for void keys and Deerlike keys, as well as primed warframes and primed gear. Alright, so quite an extensive guide as far as subject matter anyways. So first and foremost, let's talk about how to farm for void keys. We kind of touched on this a little bit in our defense mission guide already, but I'll kind of go over it briefly here as well. So basically what you're going to want to do is jump into a defense match, such as Lith on Earth, for example, and kind of play through defense until you see a void key pop up as your reward, in which you'll exit the map and you'll attain that key. Okay, so not too hard. A few things you need to know though. On lower levels such as Lith, the void keys will most likely be tier 1 or tier 2. It goes up to tier 3. And if you do want tier 3, you're going to want to go to higher level defense matches. So let's say Eris on Zeni, that would be an example of a higher tier defense match, in which you'll get mostly tier 2 or tower 2 or tower 3 keys. It doesn't really matter which. Well, it does matter if you're going for something specific, I guess. But you'll get like a random kind of a mission type as far as tower and void keys go. Okay, so again, just kind of finish defense matches, and then you'll get a void key. And the higher level the defense match, the higher tower it will potentially be. So there you go. Pretty easy on how to get void keys. If you're confused about it, you can check our defense mission guide, in which we go into it a little bit more detail. Now we're going to talk about how to get Deerlike keys. Deerlike keys really not much to farm for. Alright, it's pretty basic. All you really have to do is go to the store, go to equipments, then go to keys and drones, and right here you'll have it listed to what Deerlike keys you can get. They're not expensive, they don't cost any platinum, they're all credits, so you buy them with in-game money, which is nice. And again, they're not very expensive, they range from 1500 to 2500. You purchase them and then you kind of just create it with with these materials listed here. So there you go, not hard at all. Now these keys do require nav coordinates to create, and you kind of get those through breaking containers and stuff from different missions. You want golem nav coordinates, you're going to have to earn them through doing other derelict missions, as the golem nav coordinates specifically will only be dropped in those mission types. Alright, so do keep that in mind. So there you go, there's a little overview on how to get the derelict keys. Now we'll talk about how to use them later on down the road. Alright, so next we're going to talk about Forma. Alright, we're going to talk about how to farm for Forma. Pretty easy, to be honest. Formas drop mainly from void missions. Alright, it doesn't really matter which void mission you run, as long as it's a tier 3 void mission. Now you can get formas or forma blueprints from lower towered void runs as well, but you stand a much higher chance of attaining them if you do tower 3s. So if you want to get lots of formas or forma blueprints to make the forma, then just run tower 3 void runs and you should get a fair amount of formas. Okay, they are generally considered a rare drop, quote unquote, but I never had too much of an issue getting formas after a few runs, to be honest. If you're looking for something more specific from void runs, you'll probably have a better chance of getting formas than that specific thing, as the format does kind of fill the loot table quite a bit in the void runs. So again, if you want formas, high tier void runs are definitely a good way to get formas. All right. Otherwise, you can always just kind of buy them through the store as well. They're not very expensive. They're only 20 platinum, and they're quite useful as they're used to you know, polarize your weapons or your Warframe, which then will obviously lead to higher potential of customizing your mods with higher power mods as well. Alright, so Formas are quite important, definitely worth farming for, and you feel like you can't farm them, they're not expensive to buy in the store either. Alright, next we're going to talk about potatoes, how to farm for potatoes. And if you're confused to what a potato is, the in-game name for potatoes is Orokin reactors or Orokin catalysts. The community of Warframe generally just call them potatoes to kind of lump both of them into one category. Anyways, in order to get these, well, these are really hard to farm for. You can't really farm for them, to be completely honest, okay? You can only reliably attain them through alerts. Unfortunately, there is no alerts right now that will give you said potato, but that's generally what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to keep an eye on alerts, wait for a potato alert to come up, do that alert, and then you'll get the blueprint to create that potato, in which then you can use. Warframe actually does a weekly stream with the developers where they talk about the current state of Warframe, future plans of Warframe, and just general Warframe talk, in which during that stream they usually offer a special alert that will allow players to kind of run and get a potato, either a catalyst or a reactor. So every week you'll almost be guaranteed a chance of getting one of those alerts. Now throughout the week you can get a random potato alert along the way before the streams as well. They're relatively rare and hard to find, so do pay attention to your Warframe alerts for when they do pop up. Another way to get the catalysts or reactors is login rewards. Now don't count on this as a reliable way to get your potatoes or your formas or anything, to be completely honest, as it's quite random and you can only get one login reward per day. So not a very reliable farming technique, but you know, there is a chance that you'll get it, so it's worth mentioning. Now another way to kind of gain potatoes besides alerts and login rewards, you can also get it through invasion missions. Alright, now invasion missions are sort of like alerts as well, as in, you know, they're limited missions, they'll only last for so long, etc, etc. Right now there's no active one, so I can't really show you an example of it, but let's hypothetically say there is. So basically it'll pop up here where my cursor is, where I'm highlighting, just below the alert tab in the upper left hand corner, and it'll list which operations available. Alright, and basically what you're going to want to do is do one of those operations, take a side. Alright, so either side with the Grineer and fight against the Corpus, or side with the Corpus and fight against the Grineer. And when that operation is complete, and if your side wins, you'll gain a bounty, and those bounties can be either parts like blueprints, or credits, or resources. And one of those resources could potentially be a potato. So that's another way to kind of get your potatoes. Again, not an overly reliable way to farm it, but it is an option. Potatoes generally are materials that you're going to want to purchase through the store. Alright, so this is a free-to-play game, and Digital Extreme do have to earn money somehow, and this is kind of their incentive to the players to pay them a little bit of money every now and then. Now, potatoes aren't very expensive on the marketplace, alright? They're only about 20 credits, so again, not that expensive. So if you're killing for a potato, I definitely recommend buying one from the Warframe marketplace for sure. Like for example right here, 20 platinum really isn't that much considering how essential these potatoes are to upgrading your game. Alright, so as far as farming for potatoes go, there's no real overly reliable way to do it other than just purchasing them through the store, so do keep that in mind. They are fairly rare resources. Okay, now next we're going to talk about how to attain dual stat rear mods. Okay, so dual stat rear mods are actually very useful. So I'll show you an example of one now. So we have Accelerated Blast here. It's a shotgun mod. It gives 60% fire rate and 60% puncture damage when it's fully upgraded. That's just an example of one. There's a whole pile of them that you can get. So in order to get those, they're pretty easy to get, to be completely honest. They're not that hard. You can probably start getting some fairly early into your Warframe career. Basically, all you really have to do is run nightmare runs, and nightmare runs are marked on your map with a skull. So essentially, they're just harder versions of whatever mission that is nightmare. So this is sabotage. This will just be a harder version of a sabotage run that you've previously ran. Alright, so you just basically run through those, and you'll have a chance of getting one of the many kind of dual stat rear mods. Okay, so they're not hard to get. Just run nightmare runs and then you'll get them. Alright. One more thing that I kind of want to talk about as well. I didn't really talk about I never really said that I was going to mention, but auras as well. Auras is alerts only. You can't purchase them. You can't farm them. You'll just have to keep an eye on your alerts. And this one is not an aura. No, this is an aura. Okay, this is rifle scavenger. Okay, so this is an aura alert. So you basically just do this alert and then you'll get to this aura. Alright. We kind of talked about auras a little bit in our mods beginner's guide. So I'm not going to talk too much about it here. Okay, so there you go. Alright, so we talked about dual stat mods. So let's talk about corrupted mods. Alright, so corrupted mods are kind of interesting. They give you a huge benefit in stats. It also kind of gives you a debuff in stats as well. I don't have a lot of these corrupted mods because it came in during an update where I was kind of on a hiatus from Warframe, so I never really earned a whole lot of them. But basically that's what they are. They give you a huge boost in one stat while decreasing another stat. So for example, it could increase your power's range, but decrease your power's efficiency. That's just an example of one, okay? And to get those, you basically run Deerlikes. Okay, so like right here, for example. And I already kind of talked about how to get those Deerlike keys. Basically, once you get the keys, you kind of pop one, and then you use it, and then you run the mission. And what you're going to want to do is look for dragon vaults that spawn in those Deerlikes. Now, you're not going to want to do mobile defense, or survival. Okay, they don't have dragon vaults. What you're going to want to do, like sabotage, or maybe exterminate, etc., etc. These kind of missions have a potential of spawning a dragon vault. Alright, so if a dragon vault does spawn, as long as someone on your team has a corresponding key to open the vaults, you have a potential of gaining one of those highly sought after corrupted mods. Alright, so now those keys, I'll show you a little bit about the keys as well. So basically you kind of just get the keys from the store, then you kind of build it, then you equip it. Alright, these keys give you a debuff. Alright, so that's the penalty of equipping one. But they give you an opportunity of opening the dragon vault. So when you're farming for corrupted mods, these are absolutely essential. And you're going to want to go into a corrupted mod run with a full team, and everyone on your team really should be carrying a different key, because different vaults will require different keys to open. So let's say everyone's bringing in extinguished dragon keys for some reason, like everyone in your team is bringing this one key in, but it actually requires a decaying dragon key to open the vaults, and that's no good to anybody. And that's kind of why you want everyone to be bringing in different keys, just in case of scenarios like that come up, right? So that's basically how you do, that's basically how you get corrupted mods. Again, you're going to want to run derelict mod or derelict runs. That's not mobile defense, or survival. Look for dragon vaults. So make sure you communicate to your team that you are looking for dragon vaults. Have your team bring in different keys, so you have 100% chance of opening said vaults when you do find it, and then break everything open in the vaults, and you'll have a good chance of getting one of those corrupted mods. So there you go. So last and not least, we're going to talk about how to attain primed gear, as in primed warframes and primed equipment. All right. Now, in our first part of our guide, we kind of talked about using the Warframe wiki to help you out. I'm going to suggest the same thing for this part as well, as there are a lot of different primed warframes and primed equipments as well. So I'm not going to talk about how to get every single one of them, at least not right now. So what I'm going to do is give you an example. Alright, let's say I'm looking for Rhino Prime. Essentially what you're going to want to do is run void runs. But which void runs do you run to get the parts that you're looking for? For Rhino Prime, we need the Rhino Prime blueprint, of course. We're going to need the Rhino Prime helmet, the chassis, and the system. And they all drop from different voids. The Rhino Prime blueprints drop from Tower 3 Exterminate, the helmet drops from Tower 2 Mobile Defense, the chassis for Rhino Prime drops from Tower 3 Survival, and the system drops from Tower 2 Exterminate. So you're going to want to run these void runs over and over again until you have said resource. Okay, so let's say I'm going after the blueprint. I'll run Tower 3 Exterminate over and over again until I get that blueprint. And once I get that, I'll move on to, say, the helmets, in which I'll run Tower 2 Mobile Defense over and over again until I get the helmet, etc., etc. I think you guys get it. So basically, if you're looking for a piece of primed gear or Warframe, kind of look it up on the Warframe wiki. On the wiki, it'll tell you exactly which voids drop the materials necessary to create said prime gear. Okay, so that's basically how you get your primed gear. It's basically just through doing void runs. It's going to take a little bit of research. You're going to have to go on the Warframe wiki to look up specifically which void run you're going to need to do. But once you got that figured out, I think it'll be pretty self-explanatory. So I think that's about it, guys. So this is an overview, alright? So this isn't overly comprehensive. I think I gave you guys a good explanation of a general idea of how to get to these more advanced materials and resources and the such. But there's definitely going to be a lot more to teach you guys in the future about these things. I'll probably do an individual guide on corrupted mods and dual stat mods and stuff like that. But consider this guide currently as an overview. It's just a list of bullet points somewhere for you to start on gaining information, in which you can take and put it into Google and look up more detail on how to get said item. Okay, so I hope I was able to help point out, at least point you to the right direction of anything that you might be confused about. If you are still confused about anything, feel free to ask me in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. If I get enough questions about one specific thing, I'll obviously do another video guide on that thing. Like I said, I'm probably going to do a guide on most of these things I kind of touched on in this video, specifically down the road. So you guys can look forward to that. Well, anyways, that's it from me. If you guys found this useful, informative, or helpful in any way, please, show me some love, like, share, fave, and comments. But most importantly, please help me grow, subscribe, and feed me my vegetables. Thanks for watching, guys. Aldershot out.